Hey everyone, Coops here from the Whole Box and Dice. A little bit sick still, but keen to get my hands on some new product. Just first up, a huge shout out to Wizards of the Coast and Double Jump Communications here in Australia. Thank you so much for the hookup. Can't wait to see how the new Planeswalker decks play out. Nissa and Bolas are the two that will be facing off against each other, and let's have a look at Bolas, do a bit of a snapshot of the God Pharaoh. He is the Deceiver for 8/5 generic and Grixis, so blue, black, and red. Enters with 5 loyalty, and he's a nice mythic foil rare, as you would expect from a Planeswalker. His +3 is each opponent loses 3 life unless that player sacrifices a non-land permanent or discards a card. -3, destroy target creature, draw a card, and it's -11. His ultimate is Nicol Bolas the Deceiver, deals 7 damage to each opponent. You draw 7 cards, so nice to refill your hand. Interesting to see how it fits in the deck. Obviously, Bolas is a huge bomb. That +3 ability is very relevant. The -3 is great as well. Unconditional removal. Actually, really interesting. That I think you'll find that these Planeswalkers are probably going to be quite difficult to deal with, just because they're going to come in with 5 loyalty. You know, Bolas can potentially jump up to 8, so you might even be able to survive a swing back on a naked board anyway. But let's have a look at the decks that you will be playing with this. We'll just move this to the side and crack it open. You get a little Nicol Bolas case to little deck box to store your decks in, which is very cool. And you'll get 2 boosters as well in each of these, so you do get straight away a chance to upgrade your deck. Got a quick reference rules guide in here by the look of things. So it's just got details about how to cast spells and the phases, which are obviously going to be very, useful for new players. And you have to remember, these decks they're aimed at new players, to Magic. They give you a good understanding of some of the mechanics that they're going to be seeing in standard. Maybe some of the creatures are a little bit, underpowered, but I think it's the right way to learn. There's no point giving someone UR control or mono black zombies and just say, hey, just go down to your F&M, try not to suck, because that's the wrong way to do it. And you can see straight away there's an Ammit Eternal on top of the Bolas deck anyway, so it looks like there's going to be some half decent cards in here. And what I will do is I'll do a video after this just showing you the kind of cards, how to spend, maybe, I don't know, set like a $10 limit on how you'd upgrade these to make the decks a little bit better. So Ammit Eternal's our first card there, so that's the rare Khenra Eternal. Very, very nice. So it's got the Afflict mechanic, so when it becomes blocked, your opponent loses life anyway. 2/1 Flyer, that when you cast Bolas, you can sack it and destroy another creature. It's very relevant. Burning Fist Minotaur, 2-drop with first strike's always good. Aerial Guide's really solid. 3 mana 2/2 to give something else evasion through end of turn. Eternal of Harsh Truce has that Afflict mechanic, and if it isn't blocked, you get to draw a card, which is great. The Bone Slasher is a 3/3. Oh, okay, it's pretty vanilla. Can't block unless you control another zombie. This is the Planeswalker specific card. The Zealot of the God Pharaoh. Pay 5 to deal 2 damage to target opponent. The Manticore Eternal. This is pretty much just a turn it sideways red creature. Supernatural Stamina, so a couple of combat tricks. It gets +2, and when it dies, regenerate it. Magma Spray, that's a nice inclusion, so some very solid removal. Ooh, Open Fire as well, so 3 mana, very flexible. Final Reward, great, that's just unconditional, not even just, killing, that's exile. Throne of the God Pharaoh, Visage of Bolas. Oh, okay, so you can actually tutor up Bolas when you play this, and it taps 4 mana as well, so that's nice. Onto the lands, Cinder Barrens. Probably have a Cinder Barrens and Highland Lake in here, I'd think. Oh, Crypt of the Eternals. Okay, you get a life when you play it, and you can pay 1 to get some mana fixing there. Maybe no Highland Lakes. Actually, that would probably be a card that you might want to invest in. Just some basics. Oh, I really like those. Swamps. They look very, very nice. Yep, cool. So pretty standard. Okay. Let's crack open these. Let's crack open the boosters. Let's see how they go. Because, like I said, they are starter decks, but they're definitely not going to be completely uncompetitive. And especially if you're playing it with your brother or your sister, your boyfriend, girlfriend, or just one of your mates. I feel like buying both of these is a good introduction to Magic. Torment of Venom is very useful. Ruin Rats, definitely in our colours. Big Elemental Titan, Jace's Defeat, the Sphinx. Claim to Fame is pretty useful. Dawn Pouncer. And so there you go. In that first pack, our rare was a white card. We're obviously not going to play a card like the Adorn Pouncer, given that it's in white. But another Open Fire and Countervailing Winds is very solid. Another Kenra, another Titan. A Desert, that would be useful. Supreme Will's good. Tormasara's good. Braid's good. Wow. Refuse to Cooperate. Okay, so the end of that second booster was pretty valuable. So we'll look through some of this. Like I said, Dutiful Servant, you're not going to play that because that's not in Bolus's colours, but there is going to be stuff, probably wouldn't play the Rat or the Titan, even though they are. But, I don't think the decks, just from looking at it, they don't come with a sideboard. So it is nice to be able to put some of these cards in your sideboard if you feel like that's going to be something that will help you out in some of the matches, especially some of those spells. Torment and Venom certainly would be a sideboard card that you'd put in. Same with something like Jace's Defeat. But this is just all gas here. Supreme Will, Braid, Kindle Fury, probably wouldn't play. Open Fire, Countervailing Winds, Sandblast, and Claim to Fame there. So plus Torment of Scarabs if you want to go a little bit more control-y as well. So upgrade time, and I do want to say first, I do really think these are good decks for familiarizing yourself with the game of Magic. They do a very good job of introducing you to the mechanics, as well as the types of cards that you're going to be seeing in the current standard meta. So for a new player, I definitely do think they have value, but I also want to show how you can take this deck and make it a bit more competitive, plus talk about some of the cards that I think possibly you might want to consider taking out of the deck. So starting off with something like, and this is the rare, or one of the rares in it, is Throne of the God Pharaoh. And this is a really awesome card and a really great card in a mono red, turn it sideways, aggro deck, but I feel like it doesn't really fit in the Nicol Bolas 8 cost Planeswalker deck because you do have a lot of early drops, and I get that you want to turn them sideways and inflict as much damage, but then I feel like you don't get the enjoyment of actually playing Bolas, and Bolas does cost 8. But you are rewarded with quite a high loyalty, so you want to have some ways to interact in the early game as well as the mid game, which I think the deck is lacking a little bit. And while you do have things like Magma Spray and Open Fire, which is highly flexible, and I enjoyed that card, the mana is a little bit touch and go, and you do really want to rely on Bolas to win your games because it is a Planeswalker deck after all. So I think you probably want to look at, cards like Throne of the God Pharaoh is a good example of a very powerful card that's probably just not in the best shell for this deck. And it's definitely a card that you might want to put in the sideboard because if you are versing an aggro deck, it is great to have that, as a race card. But, the mana in this deck, it is a little bit tricky with just the one dual land. I was a little bit surprised there wasn't a Highland Lake set in there as well. I don't like that our interaction is a little bit limited, turns 4, 5, and 6, even 7, if we don't have the ramp out for Bolas. I didn't like the Zealot of the God Pharaoh as our 4-drop, and 26 lands in the deck, and I think I'd go down to 25, means you can get flooded, and whilst the Manticore is a great creature and limited for swinging in and smashing the board, I don't like that it forces you to attack each turn and potentially leaves Bolas without something big and beefy to absorb any damage coming back at it. So what I would do with the deck, the cards that I would take out is the Throne of the God Pharaoh, as I mentioned. The copies of the Kenra Eternal I would remove from the deck, as well as Zealot of the God Pharaoh. I take out both copies of the Manticore and 1 copy of Final Reward. There's 3 copies in the deck, and I think for a 5 mana instant, even though it is unconditional exile, it's probably just a little bit too much. What I'd put back into the deck is 4 copies of the Doom Dissenter, so a great early game creature here. It's something that we can definitely make use of with Lethal Sting, which I'll be putting 2 copies in, so just a little bit more removal, because we are playing a Bolas deck. We want to do everything the Bolas would like to do, and that is control the board and really cause havoc for our opponent. 2 copies of the Baleful Ammit. The lifelink is very valuable here, and I do feel like this is a good body and a nice drop to just give us a bit more strength heading into the middle of the game. Another copy of Open Fire. I was really happy with how this performed, and the flexibility to hit both players and creatures cannot be missed. I'm going to run an extra copy of both Eternal of Harsh Truths and the Aerial Guide. These were really strong creatures, I thought, and the fact there was only 2 of them in the deck, I really wanted to be seeing these more often. As I mentioned, we're going to take some lands out of the deck, and we're going to replace them with Evolving Wilds. We're also going to run 3 Evolving Wilds and take out a basic of each. So I feel like the deck now will curve out a lot better. You have Lethal Sting as an additional way with Magma Spray and Open Fire to deal with both our opponent's creatures or get through for a little bit of burn. Things like Supernatural Stamina, we still have some combat tricks in the deck, which I think are important. Baleful Ammit gives us a bit of life as well, and we get really good interaction with cards like Doom Dissenter. So if you were going to spend $10 on this deck, or if you have been given this deck and you want to make it a little bit more competitive for FNM, this is probably what I'd look to do. There are obviously lots of ways you can upgrade the deck. You could put the original version or the Hour of Devastation version of Bolas in the deck. You could grab some of the dual lands, which will obviously help with mana fixing. You've got removal with cards like Fatal Push, Harness Lightning, Unlicensed Disintegration. But I feel like at the end of the day, this is a great deck that you play to get yourself familiar with Magic, learn about the type of decks that exist. Do you want to play Control? Do you want to play Aggro? Do you want to play Janky Combo? And then you can then look at adding the cards that you want, or maybe even purchasing some of the cards from your local game store in order to make your first deck. Or check out someone like myself or someone like Dev from Strictly Better MTG, Goldfish, even a site like Tapped Out, which has heaps of great ideas in terms of putting that deck together, and pick out a card that you really enjoy. And this is probably my best piece of advice, besides always play Jank, is that find a card that you really enjoy and try and build a deck around that, because then you'll always feel, even in those games you're not having a great time, you'll always enjoy that interaction when you do get to play that card that you enjoy the most, whether it's a creature or a spell or a Planeswalker in Nicol Bolas' case. I think it's a good way to go about it, and I think it is a very fun way to play Magic the Gathering. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hopefully you enjoyed the Nicol Bolas review. Sorry again for my voice. As I said, I am still a bit sick. Please hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video. I will be doing one for Nissa, the Genesis Mage, shortly. We've got a whole bunch of deck techs coming out, plus we've got our foil mythic giveaway going on. So check out the Gleam link in the comments below. Let me know in the comments what you think of the decks. Let me know in the comments what you think about the video. Obviously hit the thumbs up button and subscribe if you're not a part of the channel already. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Coops. This is the Whole Box and Dice. Looking forward to getting my voice back soon. Peace.